Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today I continue bringing you a very real, very relatable story. A story that doesn't rely on dramatic twists or exaggerated moments, but is woven from the simplest pieces of everyday life. And yet, it is precisely those simple moments that carry so many thoughts, so many choices, and so many quiet concerns, things that perhaps all of us have experienced at some point in our own journeys. This story once again begins with something that seems very small. On a gentle afternoon, when the sunlight was no longer harsh but softened into a warm glow, Tieu San and Ivy stopped by a small bookstore tucked away in a familiar corner of the street. The space wasn't large, nor was it noisy or crowded, but it carried a quietness that made people want to slow down, to spend more time reflecting and feeling. The bookshelves were neatly arranged, each book resting in place as if waiting for someone to discover it. There were books about life skills, about nurturing a family, about preserving happiness, about how a woman can be strong yet still gentle. All of it opened up before Tieu San like a different world. A world where people not only learn how to live, but also learn how to understand themselves. Tieu San stood there for a moment quietly. She didn't rush. She gently picked up each book, flipping through a few pages, scanning the lines. Her gaze was no longer casual. It was focused, thoughtful, as if something inside her was slowly taking shape. Each line seemed to touch a part of her mind, making her pause longer, think deeper. Perhaps after everything she had been through, after all the changes life had brought her, Tieu San was no longer searching for something grand or distant. The desires she once had seemed to fade into the background, making space for something much simpler, yet far more genuine. A peaceful life, a warm home she could feel safe returning to, and more than anything, a better version of herself. Someone who knows how to love, how to protect, and how to appreciate what she has. That is why, when choosing the books in her hands, Tieu San did not hesitate. She picked a few, not out of fleeting curiosity, not just to try for the sake of it, but because deep inside, she had already made a clear decision. She wanted to change. Not to become someone else, but to become a stronger, more mature version of herself after everything she had gone through. As she stepped out of the bookstore holding those books, her eyes seemed to carry something new. Not uncertainty anymore, but a quiet hope, a silent determination, just enough to begin a new journey. Meanwhile, somewhere else, life continued in a completely different rhythm. Tieu San's ex-husband, the person still tied to old memories and unresolved connections, had also just made an important decision in his life. He bought a new car through installment payments. For him, it wasn't just a means of transportation, but a necessary tool to continue his work, to open new opportunities, and also a way to gradually carry the responsibilities on his shoulders. But along with that decision came significant pressure. Each month, the payments were not just simple numbers. They were principal, interest, fixed expenses that he could not avoid. Every amount carried responsibility, effort, and long days of working harder to make sure everything stayed on track. He understood that clearly, and he still accepted it, because he knew that if he wanted to move forward, if he wanted to change his current life, sometimes he had to make sacrifices. No path is completely smooth, and no choice comes without responsibility. After receiving the car, he drove to visit Trang and the baby. At first, everything felt natural and light. Conversations revolved around the new car, his current work, small changes in life. Everything unfolded just like their usual meetings before. There was laughter, there was comfort, as if everything was moving in the right direction. But then, the conversation slowly shifted. Not because anyone intended it, but because of a small detail that was mentioned, yet it was enough to change the entire mood. Trang brought up something he had never known before, that their mother had borrowed money, a significant amount, and what shocked him even more was that the money was said to have been used to support his car purchase. At that moment, everything seemed to freeze. He was stunned, not because of the exact amount, but because of what it meant. All this time he believed the car was the result of his own effort, the product of his hard work. He had never imagined that behind it, there was another story, a truth he had never known. What he felt was not anger, but confusion, a strange, indescribable feeling when the things he once believed suddenly become uncertain. Questions began to form in his mind. What really happened? Why did this happen? And why didn't he know anything about it? Those questions kept surfacing, making it impossible for him to remain as calm as before. And then he made a decision. When he got home, he would ask his mother, not to blame, not to find fault, but simply to understand the truth. Because sometimes what weighs on a person's heart is not the truth itself, but not knowing what that truth really is. At that very moment, while stories that seemed unrelated were quietly unfolding, on another side of the story, Hai was silently preparing for something very special. Something he didn't talk about much, didn't show off, yet poured a great deal of dedication and hope into. He reached out to a design team, not in a rush, nor with the mindset of simply getting it done, but with careful and thoughtful preparation. From the very first discussions, Hai took the time to clearly explain each of his ideas, every small detail of the space he had been imagining in his mind. It wasn't meant to be a large house, didn't need to be luxurious, nor was it something built to impress others. It was simply meant to be just enough. A space that felt simple, close to nature, and warm from the very first step inside. A place to live, a place to rest after long, tiring days. And more than anything, a place to begin again. Hai wanted to build it in the style of a small homestay. A space that blends with nature, that brings a sense of peace, where people don't have to worry about the noise of the outside world. A place where each morning feels gentle, and each afternoon offers a quiet moment to simply sit and enjoy life's simplicity. But deeper than all of that house was not just a project, not just an idea. It was a part of the future Hai was quietly drawing. A future with Tieu San, with a small family, with peaceful days that he had always longed for but had never truly reached. That's why every detail in the design was carefully considered. From the layout of the space to the lighting to even the smallest corners that might seem insignificant, everything was thought through. Not because he wanted perfection by some standard, but because he wanted the place to truly have meaning. Not the most beautiful house, but the most suitable one. Not a place that makes others admire, but a place where the people inside feel they belong. He didn't talk much about it, didn't share it with many people. But in every decision, in every choice, it was clear that he was doing everything with sincerity. Not because he had a lot of money, not because he wanted to prove anything, but simply because he truly wanted it. He wanted to build a place, to hold on to something, to have a new beginning, steadier, more meaningful. Yet while Hai was quietly preparing for the future, somewhere else, Tieu San was facing a reality that was far from easy. After her most recent checkup, she received a conclusion from the doctor. A conclusion that wasn't long, but enough to make all her thoughts come to a halt. That her body was facing difficulties, that her chances of conceiving naturally were very low, and that, if she wanted to have a child, she would need IVF treatment. In that moment, it felt as though every sound around her faded away. Tieu San sat there listening to every word the doctor said, yet everything seemed to pass slowly. Not because she didn't understand, but because she needed time to accept it. As what she had just heard was not simply medical information. It was a reality that touched something deep within her emotions. No one could fully understand how she felt at that moment. It wasn't just a passing sadness, but a clear sense of loss. When something once thought to be natural and normal suddenly becomes much more difficult. It was pressure, not from anyone else but from her own thoughts. It was unanswered questions about the future. What would happen next? Would she be strong enough to keep going? Would the road ahead be what she once hoped for? Those questions had no immediate answers. They simply lingered, quietly weaving through her thoughts, making her heart feel heavier, slower, filled with emotions she couldn't yet put into words. And at this very moment, while one person was quietly building a future, another was standing before challenges she had never imagined she would have to face. But he didn't let her face everything alone. After learning about what Tieu San was going through, he didn't choose to offer rushed words of comfort, nor did he try to make things feel lighter with simple reassurances. Instead, he quietly took action in his own way, subtle, but enough to show the sincerity of his care for her. He began to learn. He researched IVF, the journeys that so many people had gone through, and the struggles that are often unseen behind the surface. He read every story, every shared experience, every heartfelt line written by those who had once stood in the same position as Tieu San. Not just to know, but to understand, to truly understand what she was going through so he could be there for her in the right way. And he didn't stop there. He reached out to people who had already walked this path. He hoped that real stories, real experiences from those who had lived through it, would give Tieu San something, not certainty but belief. A belief strong enough to keep going. That meeting took place in a very ordinary setting. No elaborate preparation. Nothing particularly special. But it became a space where very real stories were shared. The woman they met, someone who had gone through multiple IVF attempts, did not speak in flowery words. She shared her journey honestly, through memories that still carried emotion each time they were recalled. She spoke about the hardships, the long waits filled with anxiety, the moments of hope, followed by disappointment, the times when it felt impossible to continue. She didn't hide the failures. She didn't soften what had happened, because she understood. This journey is not easy. And yet, she also spoke about the moment when everything finally broke into joy. The moment when, after everything, she became a mother. A moment beyond words. A feeling that perhaps only those who have experienced it can truly understand. Those words were not a miracle. They didn't make everything instantly easier. They didn't erase the challenges ahead. But they were like a light. A gentle light. Not too bright, but enough to illuminate the path ahead. Enough to remind them that no matter how difficult it may be, there are people who have made it through. There are endings that are worth it. And that is real. Tieu San sat there, listening. She didn't say much. Her silence was not one of despair, but of reflection, of absorbing, of letting those words slowly sink in. Her eyes were no longer filled only with worry, no longer lost in uncertainty without direction. There was something new within them. Hope. A small hope, but enough to make her feel that she was no longer alone in facing those challenges. And then, returning to reality, nothing had really changed. The financial pressures were still there. The unresolved issues within the family still remained. The plans were still unfinished, still needing time and effort to be completed. And ahead, there were still challenges no one could predict. But within all of that, there were things that did not change. The effort, not loud or showy but quiet and persistent every single day. The love, the bond that held them together, no matter the circumstances. The way each of them in their own way was still moving forward step by step, trying to make life better. They might not have everything. They might not have a perfect life. They might not have everything they once wished for right away. But they have each other. They have each other's presence in every step of the journey. They have companionship, even without needing many words. And sometimes, just that alone is already enough to keep moving forward on the long road ahead. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for taking the time to listen and stay with me throughout today's story. Everyone may have their own feelings after watching. Some might see a reflection of themselves in the challenges the characters are facing. Others may find a sense of empathy, a moment to reflect on life, on family, on the seemingly small things that actually carry great meaning. Because in the end, this story is not just about one person. It is a story shared by many of us. People who are trying every single day, facing pressure, making choices, dealing with the unknown, yet still continuing to move forward. If you felt something from this story, even just a little, that alone is already something truly valuable. And if you'd like to continue this journey with me, to follow what happens next in the story, as well as other meaningful and emotional stories, don't forget to hit like to support the channel. Leave a comment to share your thoughts, because every comment is a huge motivation for me to keep going. And subscribe so you won't miss the upcoming videos. See you again in the next videos, where we'll continue to listen, to feel, and to walk through more real, heartfelt, and meaningful stories together.
Hello, xin chào mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình đưa đến với mọi người video về câu chuyện tình yêu của Hải và Tiểu San tiếp nha mọi người. Trong tập này thì Hải và Tiểu San cùng nhau vượt qua cái khó khăn hiện tại của Tiểu San, đó là về vấn đề bị Tiểu San đang bị suy buồng trứng và dẫn đến tình trạng là sẽ không thể mang thai tự nhiên và buộc phải làm IVF, tức là thụ tinh nhân tạo để can thiệp vào thì mới có thể có thai được. Thì đối với Tiểu San đây là một niềm đau rất là lớn đối với cô, một người phụ nữ mà với khao khát làm mẹ, dù trước đó cô đã có một con gái là Ivy, nhưng mà Ivy lại là con của cô và người chồng trước, và cô cũng muốn có một người con chung với Hải. Vậy thì điều gì sẽ xảy ra tiếp theo? Cả hai có thể vượt qua nỗi đau và đi làm IVF để có con hay không thì mời mọi người đón xem tập sau nhé. Tạm biệt mọi người.